Okay, I appreciate it so much. I'm so glad you guys are here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and share the presentation here. Okay, so this presentation is called Healthy Living for Your Brain and Body. And hopefully you guys can all see this. It looks like you should be able to. And this is the Alzheimer's Association's program, and it's tips from the latest research, obviously. And it's really intended for those people who are looking for ways to age well. So if you yourself or somebody that you love is having concerns with memory loss, or you're concerned about potentially Alzheimer's or dementia, I definitely recommend that you contact the Alzheimer's Association, because they do have really great programs available to teach you about that. And there's also a 24-hour tip line that I'll share with you at the very end. But ultimately, this particular program is designed to help us be able to just kind of know how we can age well. So by the end of the program, you're going to learn about these 4 different categories. So health and exercise, physical health and exercise, diet, nutrition, cognitive activity, and social engagement, and how all of those things are encompassed in different strategies to help you age well. There is also a workbook. So if you did not get the workbook, please make sure you let me know, or you let the person who invited you to this event know, so that we can make sure that you get that if you'd like it, because it can help you with some planning if you'd like to start a plan for yourself. So first of all, let me just tell you a little bit about me. My name is Michelle Tagliamonte. I am a volunteer community educator for the Alzheimer's Association. I am a certified health coach and health and wellness advocate, and I've been in the industry for a little over 20 years. And this is incredibly near and dear to me, because I was touched personally by Alzheimer's when my grandfather had it. So I decided, when I realized that there's a lot that we can do that's within our own control to help us age well and help us to lower our risk of Alzheimer's disease, I wanted to volunteer for the Alzheimer's Association and do that. So we're going to talk about the factors of aging first. And there's a lot of different ways that we age. We age depending upon our genes. For example, my grandparents on both sides lived very, very long. That was in our genetic makeup, to live long, but not necessarily to be healthy when we're living long. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Some families tend to die earlier. It's just kind of genetically predisposition to have shorter lifespans. Our environment definitely impacts that, right? So if we're living in an environment that is going to create a lot of damage to our bodies, it can impact our aging, as well as our lifestyle. So our lifestyle choices are really, really powerful, more powerful than some people even give credit for. So we're going to talk a little bit about the brain. We know that what is good for well, first let me talk about how the brain functions, right? So the brain is the control center of the body, and there are lots and lots of nerve cells, billions of nerve cells that create a branch. They create neural pathways that are signals that form our memories, and thoughts and feelings are sent through. And what Alzheimer's does is it progressively destroys those nerve cells. And that's what brings us into a state of Alzheimer's. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So the heart and the brain are interrelated. I apologize. It's really weird for me to be talking to you and not be able to see you. So the heart and the brain are interrelated. You're going to hear me say this a lot today. What's good for your heart is good for your brain. What's good for your brain is good for your heart. And a lot of people are very aware of the fact that they need to protect their cardiovascular health, but what they don't recognize is that they're also helping their brain. Similarly, when we're doing things that are going to be damaging to our heart, we are maybe not immediately able to feel it, but we are damaging our brain as well. So the brain needs blood flow. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why the heart and the brain are connected, because every single time our heart beats, 25% of that blood goes to the brain. And so we want to make sure that we're keeping our blood vessels healthy and allowing that healthy blood filled with great nutrients to go to the brain. So I just want to make a distinction here between Alzheimer's and dementia. So, and aging, frankly, because a lot of times people think that it's just normal for people to suffer from dementia when they age. And it is not a normal part of aging. If it was, every single one of us would experience that. So dementia, all Alzheimer's is dementia, but not all dementia is Alzheimer's. Okay. And there are a lot of normal changes that take place in our body as we age. Our hair turns gray, our eyes change, things like that. We become a little bit maybe less concerned about what other people think of us. I mean, there's a lot of really great benefits to aging. And unfortunately, age is one of the biggest risk factors as well for Alzheimer's. So if we want to age well, we want to do what we can to take care of ourselves. Genetics, head injury, cardiovascular factors, and fewer years of formal education are also all risk factors for Alzheimer's and dementia. And my grandfather actually had, well, I don't know really anything about the genetic side of things, to be honest, but he had all the other risk factors. He lived to a ripe old age. He was in his 90s when he died. I think he was diagnosed in his mid to late 80s with Alzheimer's. He had been a featherweight boxer in his younger years. And so you can just imagine how many times his head was hit. He probably had lots of undiagnosed concussions and things like that. I'm sorry, I just saw that I had a couple of things in the chat there. My grandfather also, when he retired from boxing, they opened a bar. They opened a bar, a couple of different bars up in the Pontiac, Michigan area, and they smoked cigarettes. And of course, they were around alcohol a lot and they drank alcohol. So they had cardiovascular factors. And then he also had a sixth grade education. He was an Italian immigrant and had fewer years of formal education. So I tell you all that about my grandfather because while he had almost every single one of those risk factors, I could have the propensity to say, well, I don't have any of those risk factors. I don't have anything to worry about. But that is absolutely not true. There are lots and lots of things about our lifestyle that make an impact on our ability to reduce our risk of Alzheimer's. And so that's why we are here. All right, so we're going to talk about 4 aspects of healthy aging. Like I said, physical health and exercise, diet and nutrition, cognitive activity, and social engagement. And we're going to look at what the current research says about what we can do. And as I touch on each area, I really want you to think about how you can apply this research to your own life and how you can have some fun with it. Do what you enjoy and make gradual changes and start now, regardless of how old you are. You might be in your 20s thinking, oh my gosh, this is never going to impact me. You might be in your 60s or 70s thinking, oh my gosh, this could be right around the corner for me. And it doesn't have to be, right? It's never too early and it's never too late to make changes. So we're going to start with physical health and exercise. And actually, many researchers say that if there was one thing that they could recommend that they would tell people to do to impact their likelihood of having a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, they would say exercise. Exercise, physical activity of any kind, really. So, and you know what? I like to use the word movement instead of exercise because exercise for some people has a really negative connotation, but movement, getting out and moving, maybe just even going for a walk, right? It is associated with a lower risk of cognitive decline. And that may be because of the increased blood and oxygen flow, like we just talked about when we were speaking about brain health. It also reduces high blood pressure, has a positive impact on diabetes and cholesterol, and all of those things have a relationship with Alzheimer's. So we're going to watch a quick video. I really hope you guys can hear this. With the way the Zoom is working, I don't know, but we're going to watch a quick video of a man who talked about his own habit and how he developed that.
It's surprising how you can easily build up habits of just taking 15 to 20 minutes out of your day to go down, hit the treadmill, and just do it. Just do it. Just get on it, put my headphones on, and just walk at a nice brisk pace for myself, build up a quick heartbeat, quick sweat, and it's amazing how quickly I can go from 15 minutes to 20 minutes, and then over time, 30 minutes, and over time, 40 minutes. Before you know it, you're up to 45 minutes of walking, and even at a higher incline and also at a higher pace. And again, it's all about incorporating habits in the choices that we make.
Okay, so the most important recommendation is to be as active as you can and to incorporate activity that you enjoy so that you're going to continue to engage in it. And if this is new for you, you can start out small. Walk around your neighborhood a few times a week, take the stairs more often, maybe park your car farther away from the building that you're walking into. And those little changes really do add up. And the research shows that even 20 to 30 minutes of walking a few times a week can have health benefits. So I'm not asking you to, train for the flying pig. I'm asking you to just get some movement and participate in cardiovascular activity regularly. So it's going to increase your blood flow to your brain and to your body. So not only is your brain going to benefit, your heart's going to benefit, but everything is going to benefit. Your mental health benefits, everything benefits. We get better nourishment to our brains when we exercise. There's so many benefits to especially raising your heart rate. So if you are somebody that's starting out now and you don't get any exercise at all, what I'm talking about is getting yourself into a situation where your heart rate is raised, you're breathing a little bit harder, maybe you're starting to break a small sweat, okay? Sometimes that's something as simple as, and for example, if people are wheelchair bound, for example, get a couple of water bottles and just do overhead raises with water bottles until you feel tired. That can get your heart rate up as well. And that is cardiovascular activity. There's a few other things that we want to address as it relates to physical health. So if you smoke, stop smoking. That definitely increases your risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. Avoid excess alcohol. If you are not a drinker now, don't start. There's definitely news out there, different articles, even research around a glass of red wine helping to improve heart health and brain health. But if you don't drink, don't start, because alcohol can have negative consequences. It can interact with medication. It can slow your reaction times. It can do all kinds of things that are not necessarily, recommended. And so, but if you do drink, you're going to definitely want to watch how much of that you're enjoying, and making sure that you're getting enough sleep. Sleep is incredibly important. When you sleep, your body and your brain detox and eliminate toxins. So you've probably heard before that people that don't get enough sleep, when they test them, their reaction time is similar to somebody who's intoxicated. So sleep deprivation mirrors alcohol intoxication because of the fact that those toxins are built up in the brain. So sleep is really, really important. Your body and your brain detox while you are sleeping. Avoiding head injury, obviously, if you're going to start an exercise program and maybe you decide you want to start rollerblading or something like that, make sure that you're wearing a helmet. Bicycling, wearing a helmet is really, really important. Manage your stress, which I know that could be a whole different presentation, but it's not necessarily about trying to manage the things that happen to us, but manage how we react to them. And stress, a lot of our stress is really self-induced because of the way that we react to things. If you find that you feel like you're having a deeper, bigger issue than what can be addressed, maybe you've got some depression, make sure that you're seeing your doctor about that. So, there's definitely, bigger issues than what we're going to be covering here. So find a physician that you can trust, and make sure that you know your numbers, your blood, your cardiovascular numbers, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your weight, and your cholesterol are all things that, knowing those numbers is going to help you to be able to manage them and take action on them. Okay. So, there is a lot of evidence that shows that increasing risk of heart disease and strokes may also increase the risk of dementia. And there's also a risk in cognitive decline and dementia among individuals with diabetes. So diabetes doesn't cause Alzheimer's disease, but there is a relationship between those who have diabetes and those who get dementia, along with midlife obesity, and that also is associated with an increased risk of dementia. So the best way is to know your numbers, kind of know where you are, and then take the steps to make those changes. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is diet and nutrition. And fueling the body is really, really important for lots of reasons. And again, what's good for the heart may also be good for the brain. So we know there's a lot of different opinions about what's the best way to eat to maximize health. But there's research about in particular, two diets, one being the DASH diet and one being the Mediterranean diet, that are kind of an overall umbrella of good health habits. So DASH, ironically, is a hypertension diet. So DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. Again, what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So there's no coincidence there. And the Mediterranean diet, the Mediterranean diet is one that I think we have kind of cannibalized here in the United States. We like to take the best parts of it, the wine and the olive oil, and really exploit that and not really look at what a true Mediterranean diet is. But it really is the basics of healthy eating components that characterize the cooking styles of the countries that border the Mediterranean Sea. And so we are talking about lots of vegetables, lots of healthy wild-caught fish, minimal olive oil, but olives, avocados, things like that. So eating the whole food rather than the processed oils of those foods. And really the fish and the vegetables are the centerpiece of that. So we are going to watch a short video, and then I'll share with you a couple of lists that will give you a great guideline for what those diets contain.
Foods that have been shown to lead to healthy aging would be fruits and vegetables, and in particular green leafy vegetables and berries, as well as limited intake of high-fat food items that you get through high-fat dairy and cheese and red meats, and also healthy vegetable oils. So this would be olive oil would be a good example, have been shown to reduce your risk of heart disease as well as dementia.
Okay, so both the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet, really it's all about adding more fruits and vegetables, nuts, beans, and whole grains, lean meats, fish and poultry. And when I talk about meat, fish and poultry, I really recommend that people eat, wild caught fish, meat that might be, grown and raised, for example, by a cattle farmer or a farmer that is feeding that animal what God put on this earth to eat it, rather than feeding it a lot of different, fatty feeds and shooting them up with hormones and antibiotics and things like that. Because the unhealthier the meat, the unhealthier you're going to be when you eat it. So, try to eat the healthiest meat you possibly can, and avoiding. And so, in vegetable oils are things like, coconut, avocado, and olive oils. But avoid, and I recommend those in small amounts, but avoiding saturated and trans fats, which trans fats are things like, if you think about like Crisco, solid at room temperature, it's been, a hydrogen atom's been added to that fat molecule, and so that it becomes a great preservative, and it also is really, really hard on the body. But processed foods, anything that's in a box or a bag is going to be, considered a processed food. If you can't read the ingredient list, or you don't know how to pronounce it, or you wouldn't be able to go look for any of the names on that ingredient list and single them out in the grocery store, that's a very processed food. Solid fat, like I just mentioned, sugar and salt, lots of excess processed sugar and salt, and then deep fried and unhealthy fast foods. And I know there's a lot of common sense around that, but if you can really stick to the things on the left, you're going to make a big impact on the way that your body responds to your diet and the way that your brain responds to your diet. So a lot of times when we're talking about food, we immediately start thinking about supplementation, because many people say, okay, well, I'm not getting what I need for my diet. But I take vitamins, I take vitamins. And so I'm making up a difference between what I'm getting in my food and what I should be getting. And ultimately what we know now is that vitamin supplements, isolated vitamin and mineral supplements, do not reduce the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. There's a lot of research around the lack of efficacy of multivitamins. Isolated nutrients just cannot be absorbed by your body. And forgive me if I'm too graphic here, but if you're taking a vitamin and your pee is bright yellow, that nutrition is just flying right through your body. It's not even absorbed by your body. So when I talk about supplementation, what I like to talk about is whole food supplementation. If you can get a whole food supplement, something that is going to be made by food, maybe even has a food label on the bottle, has some research, and research that shows that the body actually absorbs it, that it reduces oxidative stress in the body, and maybe even has another study, then that would be something that you could use to supplement your food intake. That's pretty rare, but I have definitely found one. So if you would like to know what that is, you can message me in the chat and I'll make sure that I get your information and share with you, because it's not the place for me to share it here. But that is one of the things that I recommend as a certified health coach. And it's what my family and I've been using for over 20 years. And I love telling people about it because it is highly researched and really effective and can help you. But eating the real food is really the most important thing. 7 to 13 servings a day for the average person of fruits and vegetables is really what we ought to be getting. So supplementation is really only necessary when you can't do that. And I don't really know very many people who can actually. So, okay, so we're going to move on to cognitive activity. And that's the term that we use for keeping our minds active. Anything that uses our mind in a challenging way is what we consider a cognitive activity. And I'm talking really challenging. So if you're somebody who's doing the Wordle every day and you're getting the Wordle in 3 or 4 guesses every single time, you probably need something that's going to challenge you a little bit more. And what happens when we do this is our brain begins to form new pathways and nourish those pathways for connections between our brain cells. The more pathways you have, the more nimble your brain is, and the better able you are to guard against the effects of injuries or diseases that can compromise our brain functioning. So studies that have been done in which people engaged in cognitive activity by playing games or reading material that was challenging for them, those who kept their brains active in those ways could recall information that was recently learned and remember it later to a much greater degree than those who did not keep their minds stimulated through mental activity. And we don't know all the reasons why staying cognitively engaged may be beneficial, but more research is definitely taking place. There is actually new research that shows that if you can stimulate your brain, challenge your brain cognitively while your heart rate is up from doing cardiovascular exercise, you will get maximum benefit. So if you have there's actually a gym down in Cincinnati that's doing this now, called Active Brain and Body, I believe it's called, or Activate. If you want to know the name of it, let me know. I don't know where all of you all are from, but while you're on a treadmill, for example, try to remember your grocery list for this week, or try to double the recipe in your head for something while your heart rate is up. That's what one of the scientists there told me to do. And that is a great way to stimulate your brain while your heart rate is up. Okay, so here's another thing about cognitive functioning or cognitive challenge. Engaging in formal education is going to keep your brain healthy. And in formal education at any age, and that basically is what I mean by that is classroom-based learning that it's administered by professionally trained teachers. Because we are using reading, we are writing, we are discussing, we are listening, we're recalling things. It uses all of the different forms of learning, and that has definitely been shown to improve cognitive functioning. So we're going to watch a little video about that as well.
One of the most interesting factors is cognitive stimulating activities, which basically for us just means mental processing of information. It can be from a book, it can be from the radio, it can be a magazine, it can be from a lecture, it can actually be from watching TV. All of these things require processing information. And the old adage of, use it or lose it is actually something that turns out, at least from the observational data, to look like it's true. So numerous studies now have shown that being more engaged in cognitively stimulating activities is actually good for maintaining cognition. And it's true in late life, and it's true in early life. And so what we recommend is that you start early, and if you're already late, start now.
Okay, so some ideas of things that we can do. Participating in mentally stimulating activities. So you can see some of the ideas here on the slide. Things like building a piece of furniture, trying a new cooking technique, creating something artistic, read a book or an article that might challenge or inspire you. Maybe there's something that you have a particular interest in, but you want to learn more about it. So, and then, completing puzzles, playing games, but there's lots and lots of things. So it goes beyond like a jigsaw or crossword puzzle that you find fairly easy to do, kind of like what I just talked about with Wordle. We're talking about solving a problem that has you stumped or figuring out ways to approach a familiar task in a more effective way. And it requires you to think steps ahead and make plans for adapting to changes. And like in like a game like chess or bridge, something like that, where you kind of have to anticipate what the other person is going to do. So learning new skills or hobbies, learning things that interest you and you find enjoyable, and maybe even seeking new opportunities for formal education or joining a club. So lots of different things that you can do. And it is of double benefit because you're going to keep your mind active while you're engaging in social interaction. And so brain training, activities. And the other thing that I'll say to you about this is that, the tendency right now is for people to play a lot of games on their phone. There is actually evidence about the blue lights from our phones and computer screens doing damage to our eyes and to our brain waves and disrupting sleep. So finding other ways to do things that are going to challenge your brain are going to be important too. But again, finding things that you enjoy. So now we're going to look at social engagement. And social engagement really is the one area where there's probably the least amount of research, but there's one thing that I know and that the last few years have taught us, and that is that isolation is not good for cognitive functioning. It's not good for any of us. We are not made to be isolated. We are made to be connected to one another. And people that connect with others socially show big differences in the onset of dementia than those people who don't. They also tend to have reduced rates of mortality and disability. And we're not even really 100% sure why this is, but we just know that people don't do well in isolation. We saw it, we literally saw it. And when people are feeling good about their social networks, they tend to make healthier choices in other areas of their lives. That might be part of it. You can incorporate every one of those other three things into arenas that can create social engagement, or you can do them in isolation and they're not going to be as effective. So it's really amazing. There's a lot of different ways to connect with other people. Maybe, volunteering to tutor young adults in your community. That's going to stimulate cognitive activity as well as social engagement. Maybe taking a walk with a friend. Go on a walk with a friend. You're going to get some physical exercise, physical activity, and social engagement at the same time. Do a cooking class or invite somebody over to cook a meal with you, that kind of thing. You can incorporate diet and nutrition. So it really does help you find purpose in your life when you are involved in an activity and a connection that gives your life sense of meaning. And that can make a big difference in the way we experience cognitive functioning or cognitive health. Okay, so again, visiting with friends and family, engaging with others, volunteering outside the home, joining a group or club. I already talked about all of that. So really, here's the big deal, is when we put it all together. When we put it all together, like I said, we make the biggest difference in the way these things impact each other. And there's a lot of evidence that says that when we do combine them all, if the doctors could prescribe that, that would make the biggest difference in the rates of Alzheimer's and dementia right now. So we're going to hear another video clip here real quick from a doctor talking about what scientists are able to tell us about healthy aging.
Recently, at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference, there was a study reported of the results of a large clinical trial that was done in the Scandinavian countries. And in this trial, they took half the people in the trial and they adjusted their exercise level, their diet, their social engagement, and their mental stimulation. They developed programs for each one of those variables, changed all of those for the people that were in the test group, and the control group just lived as they had been. There is a tremendous benefit to doing studies where we make changes and observe after the fact. That's a much stronger study than just observing people and trying to make judgments after life has changed for them. To my mind, one of the things that this has done is it's changed the force of recommendation that we might make around the benefit of these interventions for prevention of Alzheimer's disease or for brain health. And the fact is that I think it's moved it from possibly exercise, diet adjustments, social engagement, mental stimulation are useful, to probably. And that's a big change and makes it easier for people to make those kinds of adjustments for the benefit of their future health.
And I would go so far as to say, not probably, but definitely. There is a lot of evidence around that. And because of what I do and because of the community that I'm involved in, I have access to a really great education about that can go further than what you're getting from this presentation. So again, I'd love to share that with anybody that might want it. So here's what you can do now. Like, this is really what we want. We want this presentation to result in you making a plan to begin today to find something small in each of those 4 areas and build upon it. Start small, build upon it, do what you enjoy, find somebody to do it with. When you have a buddy, it'll make you stick with it. It gives you accountability. And, and most of all, you want to be able to have fun when you do it. So make it something fun. And that's the biggest piece about it. So I'm going to stop the share real quick, and I'd love to be able to, no, I can't see any of your faces. You guys all have your cameras muted, but if you want to unmute your cameras and ask any questions, I'd be happy to answer questions for you, because we do have a little bit more time, and I'd love to be able to do that. And if not, I just want to say thank you so much. And I hope that you will take something from today's presentation and make it work for you and make some healthy, positive changes for your long-term brain health. I'll check the chat here real quick. Okay, I'm going to put my phone number on here. You can text me if you would. I know there's a few of you that asked me for the recommendation, and I'm going to put it in here, my information in here, and I'd love to be able to chat with you personally, and I'll put my email address too. So if there's something that you want to talk about outside of this, or you want my recommendation for supplementation, I would love to be able to help you. Just shoot me a text or email me, and I promise I'll be able to share with you there. Were there any other questions that anybody had? Cynthia, you're right. Many people don't remember people's phone numbers anymore. That definitely can help. All right. Thanks, you guys. I hope those of you who've asked me for some additional information about the food, the diet, and the supplementation will reach out to me. I'd love to help you. Have an amazing afternoon. Thanks so much for joining me.